So in that game, we really saw, I think, a little bit of a disparity as far as who's more comfortable playing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
It's not just that the strategy worked. It worked so well. I wonder where the Zerg's head was at. No disrespect to the Zerg player, but
Sure.
we see this with some players on the amateur level as much of the game was about your knowledge and your understanding and how good you are at control. It's also about comfort.
Yeah, it's very true.
Are you comfortable there playing? Are you your own worst enemy?
Well, this is something you can see kind of reflected in the pro scene, where you find someone that's like a practice Bonjour, where he's spoken well of, everyone knows he's strong, and then just doesn't win anything. That's someone that's just not as comfortable playing the actual official match, the match that has the pressure. And a lot of times that's a big part of it. You see people that are champions who generally play as well as they do at home or close to. Some people even go above and beyond. There have been players over the years that play better live than not. Like, I've known some of these. I know you have.
I've been one of those players in tournaments, especially when I was much younger. I just could not perform.
Oh, you mean you could? I was saying there are. I think that's most people. It's hard to perform when you're playing live and all the pressure's on. But there are a few gems out there that just play better in that situation. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. No, there's some people where it actually works to their benefit.
It fuels them.
And there's somehow. Whether it's through their upbringing or just how they're hardwired, they're ready to execute when it's necessary.
Yeah, I always felt like a WCG player that was good at Froz. I always felt like he played
He's
better
a perfect
in
example of
offline
that,
events than he ever did in practice games.
His play in a tournament match was impeccable. But yeah, in online games, whether
he never seemed that strong, and then he'd really put out.
Yeah, and he was able to calibrate his mindset so well. And just like deliver in such a perfect way. Where
felt that way, yeah.
I mean, this has kind of been a thing in esports, I guess in sports in general.
You know who else does that? In Control is another player that when the tournament is on, I have always felt like he plays better in those situations.
Well, he's always had this competitive background, right?
That's true,
he was a competitive powerlifter. He did competitive speech and debate, competitive Warhammer. And so he's sort of geared towards just competing.
Yeah.
Where, like, I'll use myself as an example here. I was so out of my element when I would play in tournaments when I was 15 or 16. It was like I would be playing the game, but I was not even thinking about the game. It was like I was thinking about myself being in this position and like, okay, I did fly out to this tournament. This is important to me, but I'm not doing what I practice. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm going through the motions. And it took me a while before I really got comfortable and I could actually just, hone in and do this thing that I was trying to do. And that's why you see a big disparity. I mean, we'll see this in GSL, for instance. Some of these guys who are obviously, like, take Morrow, for instance. Everybody who plays StarCraft 2 knows who Morrow is. The odds of you not being aware of that player, it's, like, impossible, right, if you follow any competitive StarCraft. But look at some of these well-known Korean players who don't normally get to round of 32, but occasionally they pop in. And a lot of times it's a total disaster.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they are
a lot of times
basically, like, top 40 in the world, they're not able to get to where they need to be and actually pull off what they practice.
Sometimes if that happens too many times, it builds upon itself, and you start to be self-defeating as well.
It becomes a really bad feedback loop almost.
Yeah, the psychology behind competition is always very interesting to see how it affects the different people and how people cope.
Who was the player in Smash Brothers that had a sports therapist? He was very public about it, but was it Hungrybox? He brought us.
That would make sense because he's part of Team Liquid, right? So I know Team Liquid has worked with sports psychologists before. I think TLO was, if I recall correctly, TLO was like one of the very first people that was doing that type of thing.
Yeah, and he's always been among the most progressive pro gamers, kind of on the cutting edge of what you need to do to actually get better. And, I mean, there's something to the mindset of going into a major match and how do you handle yourself, because you are totally right on the feedback loop.
Yeah.
Like, once it happens enough times, it becomes this weird self-fulfilling prophecy, and it can become incredibly destructive to a professional gamer's career.
We have seen it. Like, Sue in GSL, he tipped past a point where it doesn't even make sense logically that he would have lost 6 finals.
It becomes almost meme-worthy.
Yeah, well, it became so silly and went so far beyond anything we've ever seen that he actually won Katowice. I think he almost got over it because it happened for so long. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, now he can just play well.
He's in a familiar spot. It's the finals that I never win.
Yeah.
I think, 7 times of that. and eventually
wild. Yeah,
he came out on top.
Yeah.